What's up? And welcome to the Think Like a White Man podcast. I am Kai, and I am so happy that you're here today. What's up? And thank you so much for joining me on the Think Like a White Man podcast. Today, we are switching it up a Rooney. Obviously, I love calling out the fucking system and talking about deconstructing limiting beliefs and reprogramming our mindset in order to live fulfilling lives in light of systemic racism. But I also love connecting with people, and I love connecting with you even more. So today we are kicking off a new monthly segment where we're going to be pulling real life stories from Reddit of Black people who have experienced challenging racial situations in their careers. We're going to talk through these stories and figure out what the fuck would we do if we were put in their exact shoes. The honest, horrible truth is that we have probably faced some of these situations before, or you might even be going through this currently. And so think of this as our own little Black in corporate resource support group. I'm here for you, and we're here for you, and let's talk about what we would be doing. Today, we are going to be going through 3 real life Black in corporate stories, and here are the titles. First one is, am I the asshole for getting annoyed at work when people tell me I'm well spoken? The second one is, am I the asshole for refusing to play Guess That Baby at work because I think it's low-key racist? And the third story is, did I do the right thing? I didn't report a Black security guard at work for making me feel uncomfortable because I was afraid he'd lose his job. These are so juicy. Let's get into it. Okay, we have our notes here. I'm reading the story from Reddit. Am I the asshole for getting annoyed when people at work keep saying I'm well spoken? Okay, so this has been happening for years now, and I need to know if I'm tripping or if I should actually say something. I work in corporate, mostly white coworkers, and I like my job overall. But at every company event, holiday party, happy hour, networking thing, somebody, without fail, will tell me I am so well spoken. I could be talking about literally anything, travel, sports, the weather, and someone will hit me with the, wow, you are so articulate. The most recent time I was at a work function, just chopping up, why can't I say that? With some work folks. One of the senior execs I barely know joins the convo, listens to me for like 2 minutes, and then goes, man, I just have to say, you are incredibly so well spoken. I kind of laughed and I said, thanks, because what the fuck else was I supposed to do? But later I kept thinking about it, and now I can't let it go. I mentioned it to a coworker, he's a white guy, and he was like, dude, you're overthinking it, it's just a compliment. So now I don't know. Am I the asshole for feeling some type of way about this? Should I just take it as a weird compliment and move on? Or should I start calling people out when they say it? And if I do call them out, what is the right way to do it without making things awkward as hell? Has anyone else dealt with this? Would love to know how y'all handled it. This is real. This is so deep. Let's be really fucking honest. This is a Black issue. In all of 7 years in working in my career, I have literally never heard anybody go up to a Chad and say, oh my God, Chad, you are so well spoken. It could be a compliment, and it should be a compliment. But when you are only telling Black people this and not white people this, that means that it's going from a compliment to an underlying racist tone. Because that person had an assumption in their head about what you are supposed to be sounding like, and you are not meeting their expectations. Growing up, I actually used to take it as a compliment because I worked really hard to be articulate and enunciate all of the letters in a word, like for example, mountain. And then as I got older, a lot of people would start calling me an Oreo because I was Black on the outside, but then I sounded white on the inside. It has allowed me to conform and essentially be palatable for white people in the workplace. I didn't even realize how it was an advantage for me until one day I was talking to one of my Black colleagues, and he was like, I just got off the weirdest call of my life. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? He said that on the phone that the individual he was speaking to did not believe that he worked at this company because he didn't sound like the company. Sound like? Excuse me? That is absolutely insane. And that is because he didn't sound white. And when I think of that, that is the most overt way that somebody can communicate that to you. So between the, oh my gosh, you are so well spoken, you are so articulate, what they're actually saying is, you don't sound Black. You don't sound like the type of person that would be in this room having these conversations and making this presentation. There was this really crazy situation where I was on a phone with a client. I was the president of marketing at an agency. I was on the phone with a client, and he literally said, every time I hop on a meeting with you, I feel like I'm stepping into the future. You look like somebody from Wakanda. These white men be crazy. The stuff that comes out of their mouths. But what should this man do? This is hard. This is confusing. We have 3 options. So option 1 is that he doesn't say anything at all. He lets the white people get away with their little type of compliment and move forward. 2, he could politely check them by saying, thank you so much, receiving the compliment, saying, I really appreciate you saying that. What did you expect me to sound like? And then there's option 3, which is he could be the most direct, which is not accepting the compliment at all. I'm doing air quotes for the podcast listeners. And then using that time to confront and educate these white people who are saying you are so articulate about how what they're saying is actually problematic. This is really complex because, one, you have the work politics here. You don't want to ruffle the feathers with your colleagues, your peers, especially your superiors and your leadership, but you also deserve to be in a safe workplace, right? Where you're not constantly facing microaggressions that are making you too uncomfortable to speak or having a hard time building relationships or just being yourself authentically in the workplace, right? But then there's also this idea that we don't need to be on teacher mode. It is not our job to play teacher about racial issues and microaggressions in the workplace. We should be able to have leadership understanding what is appropriate and not appropriate in the workplace, and then communicating that and educating and training employees to create an inclusive work environment for Black people. And how uncomfortable is it to actually have to talk about race in the workplace so overtly as a Black individual? It gets exhausting. I know as a Black woman, I start getting nervous about the angry Black woman stereotypes, but these tiny little statements actually begin to add up and create larger problems. So do we say nothing and move on, that these are just ignorant people who don't know better and give them the benefit of the doubt and take the compliment? Or do we go as far as the extreme as saying what you're saying is a microaggression at least and is coming from your racial biases that you are unaware of, and you need to check yourself? So what would I do in this situation? So if you know me, you know that I'm a little tiny baby confrontational, and I'm not afraid to have any type of conversation. Because we are in a professional workplace setting, I would not go all out. So I would go with option 2, which is essentially saying, thank you so much for the compliment. That is so sweet. What did you expect me to sound like? That is what I would move forward with. The reason I would go with that is because I like making people feel a little uncomfortable. I like people having to show their cards and communicate and express what they themselves were saying and how that was problematic. Sometimes I also like to think about, if I don't communicate what this issue is to this person right now, that another Black individual is going to suffer. They're going to suffer in the same way that I am, or in worse ways. And I try to come from a perspective of how can I improve the future Black experience of another individual, which is obviously carrying so much weight on my shoulders. But I use that as a motivator to also communicate. So not only do I love confrontation, but I also like to make sure that I am creating a really safe work environment. Because the reality is that these things begin to add up. And one day you're hearing them say, oh my gosh, you were so well spoken. And then the next day they're walking up to a Black CEO at Target who's shopping for his family and then saying, hey, can you help me find something? When you hit them with the, what did you expect me to sound like? Karen or Chad or whoever you're talking to is going to start stuttering. They're going to say, well, I guess I don't know what I thought you would sound like. And then they're going to let that conversation play over and over and over again in their heads. I do think it's a really good strategy to get somebody to reflect on their own words that they said, understand that it's probably coming from a subconscious bias that they have, and letting them illuminate that for themselves, and giving them an opportunity to make it right in the form of an apology, or at the very least, never saying it again. Have you been hit with the, you are so well spoken, you are so articulate, you are so impressive just for existing because you don't sound like how I thought you sounded like? How did you handle it, and do you think that there is a right way to handle it? Or is this just one of those problems that we know is just going to constantly exist in the workplace, and being Black in white corporate America means that we just have to take it for what it is? I'm curious. I do know one thing for sure, though. At the very least, you need to be finding your Black friends at these corporate companies so that you can have a safe space to just fully be yourself and not hear those microaggressions, because it gets exhausting at the end of the day. And we just need that little outlet. Let's be for real. But going into our second story here, am I the asshole for refusing to play Guess That Baby at work because I thought it was low-key racist? Let's dive into this story. So this happened recently at my job, and I need to know if I was being difficult or if I had a legit reason to push back. My team likes to do these team bonding activities, and for our next event, someone suggested we play Guess That Baby. If you don't know, it's where someone submits a baby picture and the team tries to guess which baby is who. Simple enough. Now here's the thing. I'm the only Black person on my team. So as soon as they announced the game, I knew exactly how this was going to play out. There's a slide of some little white babies, and the next slide, what is it? A single Black baby. And everyone would have to pretend like they don't immediately know who it is. Like, what's the point? There's no challenge, no mystery, just an awkward moment where everyone has to act like they're thinking, and it's painfully obvious. So I went to my manager and told him, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this game. I think it's kind of weird and low-key, a microaggression in this context. I'd rather sit this one out. I even tried to be constructive. I suggested we do a different activity that actually required teamwork and not just identify the one Black baby on the slide. Instead of hearing me out, my manager hit me with, come on, don't be difficult, just be a team player. I wasn't refusing to participate in the event altogether. I wasn't demanding they cancel it. I just said, I don't feel comfortable personally playing in this game, and even offered an alternative, but apparently that made me difficult. Now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for speaking up about this? Should I have just sucked it up and played along? Or was I right to say something? Has anyone else been in a situation like this, and how did you handle it? I feel like this one is just so painfully obvious. I think that it is in the manager's best interest of protecting an employee in their work experience and making sure that he or she does not play the Guess That Baby game. I think it is so fun to see people as babies, and I would love to see everybody's baby picture always. There's a really soft spot in me that likes to see everybody that I know as little tiny babies, because then I feel like I just empathize with them a little bit more, right? But I feel like in this context, there's absolutely no team bonding, and it is just outing the Black individual. I have played the Guess That Baby game so many times in my corporate career, and I have no idea why they continue to do this. I think that it is just an extreme underline of, we have no diversity here, guess the two Black people at the company. And it is actually just so awkward. And as a Black person, it's awkward because if there's only two of us, which one are you going to guess? And you're still probably going to be wrong, right? But then also, is it comfortable? Is this comfortable as a white person to have to guess between the two Black people on the floor? Do you really feel like you are learning about your teammate by guessing the one Black person at the company, as is happening in this situation here? I don't even think it would be enjoyable for the team. I think it's the manager's number one job to have actually shut this idea down before someone from his team actually even brought this up and had to ask for it to be removed. There are so many team bonding events out there that actually bring people together. Let's talk about an escape room where people actually have to use their heads and partner together and identify the strengths of each other that they can now then take into the workplace. Or if you really want to get to see everybody as babies, why not just do a really cute activity where everybody brings in their baby pictures and talks about a unique story that happened from them in the past. The part that also really aggravates me about this entire conversation is when the guy says, don't be difficult. So now difficult is being put on to this individual on his team, a Black man. Microaggression number 2 that this manager is putting on. I don't know what to do in this situation. There are a few options here. He could just allow it to happen, be a team player, and just understand that it's going to be extremely uncomfortable for him and extremely uncomfortable for his teammates. Or it's time for us to have safe, inclusive workplaces. And if that means speaking up in order to get it, that we deserve that. I'm conflicted. I don't know if this is the best thing to say, but like, what harm does this do as a Black person? It's uncomfortable. We're dealing with uncomfortable shit all the time. Let's just play the game and move on. We don't want this to be something that is like working in opposition to your career goals and makes it hard for you to move up at the company. It's just a game. But I do think that this is a really great opportunity for these companies to put action behind the things that they're saying. And this manager in his interview probably said that he was going to create an inclusive team that all of his direct reports feel comfortable in. And so this is time for him to show up and be able to advocate on behalf of his Black talent, right? I'm conflicted. What would you do in this situation? Again, all right, into our third story here. Did I do the right thing? I didn't report a Black security guard who made me uncomfortable because I was afraid he'd lose his job. I'm already sweating. My heart's already pounding. I need to know if I handled this the right way or if I should have done something differently. I'm Black and I love seeing Black people succeed. I know how hard it can be to get into certain jobs and even harder to keep them. So when I see another Black person in a good position, I never want to be the reason they lose it. Then this happened and I feel completely stuck. A Black security guard at work was extra friendly from day one. At first it was just greetings and small talk, but then it escalated. Every day he'd compliment me. I love seeing you in the mornings. Then came the personal questions if I had a boyfriend, where I lived. I started avoiding him, but he found a way to force interaction. He started carrying dog treats so my dog would pull towards him. Then came Valentine's Day. I walked in and he handed me a homemade card with $10 inside saying lunch is on me. At first I laughed because $10, but I also started feeling real anxiety walking past him. On days he wasn't there, I felt relief. Some mornings I had my boyfriend even walk me to the door to just avoid him, but I didn't report him. Because I knew what would happen. He worked in security. His job was to literally make people feel safe. If I reported him, I knew there'd be no warning, no second chances. He'd be fired immediately. And I kept thinking, a job at this company, that is huge for a Black man. I didn't want to be the reason he lost it. Then one day I casually mentioned it near a white woman I work with. She flipped. She said it was completely inappropriate, that I should have reported him immediately, and then said, if you don't, I will. I told her I wasn't going to, but a few weeks later, he was gone. Should I have reported him, or was it right to hold off knowing that it would cost him? I honestly don't know. I just didn't want to be the reason another Black man lost his job. What would you all have done? That's deep. That stresses me out. I feel like being Black means being in a community. It means being a community of, I see you, I get you, I know the struggle that you're facing, I want you to succeed and you want me to succeed, so we are in this together. And you know, sometimes that can be seen with just like a little nod. And then it's as over as, okay, I got into this company and I'm gonna do what I can to bring you and the whole family into this company. I'm gonna help you with the interviews, I'm gonna help you prepare your resume, I'm gonna help connect you with the right people, right? That's one of the best things about being Black is the community. And oftentimes it comes at the expense of ourselves, right? And in this case, this woman was sacrificing her own peace at her job so that this man wouldn't lose his. And I think that this is so confusing and challenging on so many different levels, because as a woman, I feel like we are constantly in the world trying to not threaten the man, trying to protect the man so that we can be safe, right? And in this job, the woman should have felt safe. The woman should have been feeling protected, right? The security guard should have known immediately that his behavior was inappropriate and should have never crossed the line. And I feel like this is another challenging thing that women are faced with. Sometimes friendliness gives the wrong signals, right? And this security guard kept pushing those boundaries. And so technically there's the side which is, well, the security guard is pushing his boundaries. He knows his number one job is safety and he's not providing that. So he should understand that what he's doing is risking his own job, and the woman should not have to have the weight of that on her shoulders. I think the other thing that is super confusing is how the white colleague reacted, right? With the Black woman, this was a little bit gray area. This is really uncharted. She didn't want to have another Black man suffer, and the white colleague was so quick to jump into action that this is black and white. no pun intended, and that this is absolutely inappropriate and he should be written up. But I think that that does highlight how obvious and inappropriate the situation was, so that if the Black woman did decide that she wanted to go report it, that it is also okay to report it. I am aligned with the white colleague because although this Black woman is probably amazing, this security guard is not just doing it to her. He probably had so many other Valentine's Day cards written up. He was giving out 10s here, 10s there. And there are probably so many other women that are coming into work feeling unsafe. Are you actually harming more people than you would be just this one man, right? It becomes like, how many people is he actually impacting that you just don't see? What I want to know is what you would do in this situation. As Black people, we are told to look out for each other. There's an unspoken word that we are going to protect our other Black colleagues at work, especially in predominantly white spaces. And this is hard. So I'm gonna be honest. This is actually my personal story. And so what would I do in this situation? I mean, clearly what I ended up doing was not reporting it. And even like talking through this on the podcast, I'm like, man, I don't think that that was the right decision. Because like I said previously, I love to help the most people possible. And if I knew that there were other Black women that were struggling and going through the same experience as me, I would have reported that man up so quickly and so fast. There are consequences in inaction, and that's more than just this man not losing his job. I started getting crazy with it. Garrett would be walking me into work. I asked Garrett to say hi. I introduced him to Garrett so that he would understand I have a boyfriend. It got to the point that I would try to learn this man's schedule so that I could come in either early in the morning before he was in work and leave late at night after he got off work, or try to come in at lunchtime. Like, I was avoiding this man like the plague, for real. And so clearly it was really impacting me, and I know that I would go home after work dreading the next day because of this. I'm on a journey right now of understanding, how would I treat little Kai if little Kai was in this situation? Or what would I tell my daughter to do in these situations? And I know that I would have told little Kai or my daughter to immediately write this man up, and that at the end of the day, he is suffering from his own consequences of being inappropriate, not knowing work boundaries, and that is not something that little Kai or my daughter or the current Kai here talking to you today needs to be struggling through. It's probably a really incredible lesson that this man needed to be able to learn. Me reporting him could have actually prepared him for a bigger and better opportunity that he needed to continue to be appropriate for. So at the end of the day, I don't think I did the right thing. But let me know, what would you do? Have you been faced in a similar situation as well? All right, that is a wrap on those 3 stories. I hope this was as fun for you as it was for me to find these stories and talk through them with you. I know that there are so many more fucking stories out there like that about being Black in America, being Black traveling, being Black globally. So please, if you have a personal story that you want to share and have us talk through on the podcast, let me know. Please email me at thinklikeawhiteman@gmail.com. I cannot wait to hear your stories and literally gag and be so appalled at the struggles that we are facing. But we are here to help you and help us navigate these in our little Black support group. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you for listening to the Think Like a White Man podcast. You can catch a new episode every Tuesday. And if you don't want to miss any of the action, please follow. I want to be able to hear from you, so please leave a review, leave a star rating. I want to know your thoughts. And if you want behind the scenes on seeing a Black corporate woman baddie struggling and trying to find balance, please follow me on It's Kai Denise on Instagram and TikTok.